Hi everybody guys, my name is Yulian and I'm an Android developer at Jet.com. For those of you who do not know, Jet.com is an e-commerce company located in Hoboken, New Jersey. And right before Google I/O, we launched our first multi-feature Instant app, which was a huge success. So today we'd love to share with you our experience and how to build an Instant apps and basically provide some practical tips on how you can make your apps instant. But before we do a deep tech dive into Instant apps, let's talk about why we need Instant apps and what problems it actually solves. So let's take a step back and talk about mobile evolution. And you probably remember those first built-in applications with no animation in black and white. They were our first pre-installed applications on the device. We're pretty boring. Then we stepped into the era of mobile web, right? And mobile web opened up a lot of opportunities for us to browse the internet and search for the information we needed. But the experience was painful, right? The images didn't get rendered correctly. The text got cut off sometimes. Sometimes there were a lot of unclarity on the screen. So it was a really great breakthrough, but at the same time, experience wasn't as exciting and nice for our users. Then we stepped into the era of the so-called optimized mobile pages, and currently most of the features that are being supported on desktop applications also supported on mobile web. Pretty much simultaneously, we started to enjoy store apps or our native applications. And we love our Google Play, right? There is an application for almost every use case in our life. So we get a new device, then we install an application, then we keep installing applications until we run into a space issue, right? How often has it happened to you when you're in the middle of a very important process, you are trying to install an application, you're in the middle of the installation process, and then the system tells you no go, right? So you have to take a step back, go through all your media files, you remove some applications that you have not been using in a while. So it's a very cumbersome and time-consuming process. And we don't want to waste our time in 2017, right? So this is where Instant App come into play. So Instant Apps is a new type of the application that does not require installation. And before we actually talk in details how they work and what benefits they bring to us, let's take a look at the demo and see how Instant App works. So currently on my launcher, you can see a regular installable application, Jet.com. So I'm removing it from my launcher. I don't want to have an installable application on my device anymore. So currently it's gone. I open a Chrome and I need a new camera. So I type in Jet Camera and I can see a lot of URL addresses with a gray text instant next to them, right? So once I click on one of those URLs, what happens is that the downloading process of Instant App just has started. And just within a few seconds, a truly native application has been downloaded on the device on the fly. So I didn't have to go to Google Play Store and wait for like 10 seconds or depending on how big your application is in order to install it. Everything is done through Chrome in such a very seamless, frictionless, and performant way. So when we talk about Instant Apps, I want you to think about them as a new type of the application that absorbs the benefits of both worlds. So it takes the best part from the mobile web, and at the same time, it steals all the best features from the native applications. So if we talk about mobile web, what happens is Instant App takes its non-installation and space-friendly character. So if we think about it, if all applications will be Instant App, then we don't have to worry about space anymore. So what happens is, once the user clicks on a URL address, Instant App is being downloaded on the device, and it's being cached there. It's being cached there as long as you as users are using the applications. Once you stop using the application and the system is under memory pressure, what happens is that it wipes off Instant Apps from your device. So the ones that you have not been using in a while will basically be gone from the device. So you will never run into a space issue because the system will be controlling the process of downloading and wiping off the applications that are not necessary anymore on the device. But at the same time, Instant App is a truly native application. It has its material design and navigation, all of those native nice things that our users are so used to. So we as developers really love the idea of instant apps, and but does it really mean that we have to support both different type of the applications? Does it mean that we have to build a new type of the application and have it in parity with our installable application? Fortunately not. Instant app can share and should share the same code base as your current installable application. So we as developers don't need to worry about building a new application and support both of them simultaneously. One of the specificity of Instant App is that it is a multi-module project. So most applications in Google Play Store currently are one app module, so one monolithic module where most of the code lives. In the Instant App world, it's an anti-pattern. So we actually have to break our application into multiple modules, and I will definitely provide some practical tips on how to do that. Instant Apps is a very lightweight type of the application. As you've seen from the demo, they're being downloaded on the fly. So there are certain constraints that we have to adhere when building Instant Apps. And one of the constraints is a size constraint. So each and every module that you are adding within your Instant application has to be no more than 4 megabyte size limit. And I know most of you are thinking, okay, this is not for me, my application is over 20, 30, 40, 50 megabyte size, so it's impossible to slim down the application to a little bit less than 4 megabyte size limit. And this is actually the situation where my team was when we started to build Instant Apps. We were pretty scared of this 4 megabyte size limit restriction. But in the next few slides, I will provide some practical tips on how to actually reach this size constraint. And it's not as scary, it's not as scary as it may look at the very beginning. Currently, Instant Apps are being supported just on the API level 21 and above. So hopefully Google will be working on supporting Instant Apps on API of lower levels, but let's see how it goes. And one of the specificity of Instant App is that it's URL responsive. So in order to launch an Instant App, as we've seen from the demo, we have to click on a URL address. One of the questions that I usually get when I demo Instant App and explain how they work is, okay, I'm building my Instant application, but how would I embed this application into a browser, right? Because you've seen from the demo that I launched my Instant App from Chrome. So in reality, Instant App does not have anything to do with the browser. So what happens is you're creating an Instant App URL address. So in my case, it is https://jet.com. And so what you need to do now, what happens next is once the user clicks on this URL address, it's being sent to the Google Play Store. And then Google Play Store is trying to find a matching Instant App APK. So if such an APK is being found, then it's being downloaded on the device, and user can enjoy a nice, smooth Instant App experience. When Google Play Store is not able to resolve this URL address, so there is no matching Instant App APK, then this URL is being handed over to the system, and system handles it like any other URL addresses. So in most cases, the users will land on a mobile web application. One of the most important things that I would love to pay your attention when building this unique Instant App URL addresses is that they should be matching with your mobile web URL addresses, or just regular web application URL addresses. And why is that important? So imagine I have created a unique Instant App URL address that does not have a matching mobile web URL address. And I take a KitKat device. So in a KitKat device, I click on such a URL, and then I will most likely land on 404 page no found experience, because as mentioned in the previous slide, Instant Apps are not being supported on KitKat devices. So in order to prevent this situation, we have to make sure that Instant App URL addresses match with mobile web URL addresses. So on the devices that support Instant Apps, the user will land on Instant App experience, but on the devices that do not support Instant Apps, the user will backfall on mobile web experience. And as you can probably guess, the place where we declare this Instant App URL addresses will be our manifest file. So for each and every activity that serves as an entry point into your Instant App experience, you have to add an intent filter. So, and this intent filter looks like any other intent filters, like a regular deep link intent filters. So we have to specify scheme, we have to specify host and path prefix. We also have to set action to view and specify both categories, browsable and default. So there is nothing new so far. One of the new attributes that have been introduced by Instant Apps project is Android order. So, and this attribute is important for cases when you have two activities and both activities would respond to the same Instant App URL address. So in order to help the system figure out which activity will launch before the other one, we need to specify an Android order attribute. So the activity with a higher order number will get launched before the other one. So it will take the precedence. So there are two types of Instant Apps. So probably there are two approaches on how we can build Instant Apps. There is a single feature Instant App and there is a multi-feature Instant App. And as you can probably guess from the names, right, that are provided and the picture that is there, a multi-feature Instant App is focused on building independent components that would coexist next to each other. And single-feature Instant App is all about building one block or foundation that your application would be built on. So let's look closer at both approaches and see what are the benefits of each of them and which one we actually should follow. So let's start with a single feature Instant App. Imagine you have your regular installable application, so you have just one module, in our case it's app module, where most of the code lives. And you decided to build an Instant App. So the first step that you have to do is you have to add a new module to your project structure. And we will call it a base module. Then we have to move all of the files and most of our code from the app module to the base module. So our app module currently is empty. It doesn't have any resources or source files. Everything got moved to the base module. Then we have to provide the dependency of the app module on the base module. In order to build Instant App itself, we have to add a new module to our project structure, which is Instant App module. Again, you can call it whatever you want. In my case, I called it Instant App module. And again, it won't have any sources or resource file. It will be empty. And then we have to provide the dependency of the Instant App module on the base module. And that's pretty much it. So as you can see, building a single feature Instant App does not require adding extra code to your application. It's more about building, adding extra modules into your application and just shifting files around. In order to provide the dependencies and basically hooks between different modules, there are some configurations that we have to tweak within our build.gradle files. So let's look at our build.gradle files, and let's start with a build.gradle file of the base module. So there is a new plugin that we have to apply within our base feature, and the name of the plugin is com.android.feature. And in the Android closure of the default config, we have to set the configuration base feature to true. So in this attribute is very important for Instant Apps because we have a lot of modules. I mean, currently we have just 3 modules, but going forward there will be more than 3 modules. So in order to help our application basically find the core of our system, right, of our application, we have to set base feature to true within our feature modules. And if you look at the dependencies block, you can see that I'm just specifying regular library dependencies that we would normally have in our app module. If we look at the build.gradle file of the app module, the plugin is a well-known plugin, which is com.android.application, so nothing has been changed in that regard here. But in the dependencies block, we don't need to specify library dependencies anymore. So the only thing that we have to do within our app module is we have to give reference to our base module through a configuration implementation project. Again, if you remember it from a previous diagram, our app module depended on the base module. So implementation project just give reference to the base module where most of the code will be pulled from. Build.gradle file of the Instant App has a different plugin. It's a new one. It's com.android.instantApp. And in the dependencies, we don't have to specify library dependencies again. So it looks very similar like an app module. It would just have a reference to the base module. And that's pretty much it. So just probably within a few hours and definitely a little bit less than a day, you can build your single feature instant app. So it's not that scary. But there is an issue with a single feature instant app. And the issue is that 4 megabyte size limit that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. So just because we have one module, base module, and this is where most of our code lives, once we reach this size limit of 4 megabyte within our base module, there is no space to grow. Unfortunately, you cannot add extra features and you cannot expand your application. So this is kind of like a dead end. So speaking about single feature instant app is probably a good way to play with instant apps, see how they work. But in the long term, it's not scalable and not really maintainable way of building instant apps. Because again, there is a really hard constraint of 4 megabyte size limit within the base module, and you cannot add extra modules. If we're talking about multi-feature instant app, the situation is different here. So instead of moving all of the code from your app module into one base module, we're breaking our business logic into multiple components, the so-called feature modules. So currently, we don't have just one module where all of the code lives. We distribute that logic between multiple components. And there is no limit to how many modules you can add to your application. So it's more scalable. I know, probably it sounds very abstract looking at this diagram and trying to figure out, okay, but what should I actually put within my feature modules, right? So I decided to provide you specific examples with our Jet.com application. So once again, Jet.com is an e-commerce company and we sell stuff online. And this is the features that we currently support within our instant applications. So there is a PLP or product list page, and it basically provides the information about a list of products that a user is interested in. There is a PDP or product detail page that gives detailed information about a specific product a user is looking at. There is a cart module or cart feature, which basically takes care of the checkout process and some savings, some discounts applications. And there is an order detail page. An order detail page sums up the most recently placed order. So all of these features, right, are totally independent, right? They can live in their separate modules. They don't have to share certain components. That's why each of them will be packaged into a separate feature module. But if you think about it, right, there are certain things that still have to be repeated with our feature modules, right? Some of them networking layer, some analytics managers, some account management system, right? So we don't want to repeat our, if you're using retrofit, we don't want to repeat our retrofit services everywhere, right? We don't want to repeat this logic into each and every feature module. So in order to eliminate this duplication, we have to add a new module. And this module will be base module. So, and then we have to provide the dependency of the feature modules on the base module. So the base module is a shared repository of all the information that is basically distributed and shared between the feature modules. So all the feature modules will rely on the base module and would basically pull all the necessary information to do some networking or to handle your analytics logic or account management and stuff like this. So currently what we've done, we took our app module where most of the code lived and we broke it into feature modules and the base module. We didn't build instant apps. In order to build an instant app itself, we have to add a new module to our project structure, which is an instant app module. And then we have to provide the dependency of the instant app on the feature modules. And that's pretty much it. So if we look at our finished diagram, we can see that the bottom level module is that shared repository of code that will be pulled by the second level modules. In our case, this is feature modules. Feature modules are independent components. They don't intersect with each other. They will be pulled separately onto the device. And then the third layer modules is our empty modules. So app and instant app modules won't have any resources or source files. They will be just responsible for generating build folders and put either regular installable APK or instant app APKs. So as we've done in the previous examples, let's look at the configurations that we have to tweak within our builder Gradle files. Let's look at the build.gradle file of the base module. So in the base module, we have to apply the same plugin as we've done in a single feature instant app. It's com.android.feature. And we also have to remember to set the attribute base feature to true in our default config of the Android closure. Once again, to repeat, just because multi-feature instant app has a lot of modules. And so there should be a tag and basically indication for the application where this core of the information lives, where other modules need to reference in order to pull this information. In the dependencies block, we have to set the feature project configuration and basically provide the reference to all the feature modules that we've built earlier. One of the most important configuration that you have to specify is application project. And this attribute or configuration is important for cases when your application has several flavors. So if your application has several flavors, your application would have different application IDs, right? And your application IDs usually live where? In the app module. So in order to pull these application IDs from the app module and propagate them to the instant app module, right, and to your instant application, you have to specify in the base module the app module reference. So in our case, it's done through application project and the name of the app module. And then at the bottom, you can see there is a space to specify your library dependencies the way we've done it in the single feature instant app. Build.gradle file of a feature module would have a plugin com.android.feature. In the dependencies block, we don't need to specify anything except give reference to the base module. Again, base module is the center of the application. This is where we specified our library dependencies, so the feature can pull the dependencies from the base module. If there is a dependencies that does not need to be located in all the feature modules, right, then you definitely don't want to put it in the base module, right? You can put it into a specific feature modules. But in most cases, if the library dependencies is used across different feature modules, you would put it in base module. Build.gradle file of the app module would have our well-known com.android.application plugin. And in the dependencies block, we have to set implementation project configuration of all the feature modules. In our case, it's PLP, PDP card, and order detail, plus a base module. And a similar thing we have to do within our build.gradle file of the instant app module. The plugin is different. It's com.android and instant app, but the dependencies block is very much like the app module. So we have to give reference to our feature modules as well as the base module. Okay. So we've talked about size constraint with our single feature instant app, and we've mentioned that having one module is not really a scalable solution because there is no room to add extra code once it's already 4 megabyte size limit. So what happens in our multi-feature instant app? So when the user clicks on a URL address, what happens is that it's not only a base module that is being pulled on the device, it's actually a combination of a base module plus a feature module. So again, just because feature modules would depend on the base module, on the very first download, it will be base module plus the feature module. On the subsequent downloads, it will be just the feature module that will be pulled onto the device because the base module has been already cached after the first download. And yeah, as you can see from this probably a formula, unfortunately, it's not a 4 megabyte per base module and per feature module. It's 4 megabyte per combination of the base module and feature module. Again, just because they're being downloaded on the fly simultaneously, in order to calculate whether your instant app meets the requirement of 4 megabyte size limit, you have to take the size of the base module and the size of your largest feature module and make sure that both of them meet the requirement of 4 megabyte size limit. So a really useful tool that will help you to keep track of this of the application size is APK Analyzer. I'm pretty sure most of you, if not all, have already been using it. And just a quick note is you have to look at the raw file size, not the download size, which is unfortunate because download size is usually smaller than the raw file size. Anyway, this is what we're given. This is what we have to work with. So I've scared you with this 4 megabyte size number, and so I just want to make up for that and just provide some practical tips that I hope will help you to slim down the size of your application. This is the steps that we took at Jet.com, and we're able to slim down the application size from 17 megabyte size limit to a little bit less than 4 megabyte size limit. So the first thing to do is please print out all your dependencies that currently are included into the regular application. So, and try to evaluate each of them. So go through each and every dependency that you're pulling and see whether it makes sense to include it within your instant applications. Currently, not all features are being supported in instant apps. For example, notifications are not being supported. So if your regular installable application supports notification, please don't include it into instant app. Just strip it out. In our case, we used AppBoy SDK to handle our notification logic. So we basically removed AppBoy SDK from instant applications and just stuck with it within regular installable application. Or another example is in our Jet.com application, just because we have a lot of we have a lot of business that we target. There are several a lot of marketing, a lot of analytics and libraries that were included. In terms of crash reporting, we had Firebase, we had New Relic, we had Fabric. So we don't really need all of them, right? Because in their core, they do the same thing. So we actually removed all of them and just kept one. The same with marketing and analytics libraries. Just try to see which one fits better into your tech stack, and use one, try to eliminate the rest of them. So try to enable ProGuard, not try to, please enable ProGuard. We all know that it may be a pain to maintain, but in the long run, it will help you a lot to trim down the size of your application. And simultaneously, please shrink your resources. When I was looking at the APK analyzer of our raw application, we realized that most memory is actually being taken by resources within our application. So all of those PNG, JPEGs, JPG files took a lot of space in our application. So try to remove all of them and try to switch to vector drawables, and you will see a huge improvement in size slimming down. If you do need to use a complex image, please convert your PNG to WebP, which is 2x, usually 2x smaller than PNG files. And again, it's so easy to do that right within Android Studio. You just need to right-click on the resource, and then there will be an option to convert a PNG to WebP. So if we're talking about the process of building Instant App, it's very similar to the process of building a regular installable application, except one thing. So instead of having one APK, in Instant Apps, you will get as many APKs as there are feature modules, plus one APK for the base module. And if you think about it, that makes sense, right? Because not all the features are being downloaded on the device, right? It's a specific feature that is being pulled to the device. So it makes sense to package them separately into a separate APKs that will be pulled later onto the device. And then all of them are being zipped up into a zip bundle. And so the zip bundle is the final basically output that you will get when building Instant Apps. So there will be a zip bundle in your build folder with all of the APKs, and then once you're ready to publish your instant application, you just have to go to Google Play Store and upload this zip bundle into the Instant App channel of the Google Play Store. So it's a very seamless process. There is a very nice API that is provided by Instant Apps, and I would probably like to pay attention to two useful methods. One of them is Instant App, which takes a context. So, and this method is very useful for the cases when you want to control which features you would include into your regular installable application and what features you would include into your instant applications. So this method can serve as a toggle that will help you to understand, is your user running in the Instant App context, or is your user actually running within your regular installable application context? Another probably use case for this method would be the case when you want to keep your analytics data separately. At least this is what we've done in Jet.com, and we're super happy about keeping all the data separate, right? You don't want to merge your analytics data of Instant App with your installable application, because eventually you want to analyze, does Instant App actually bring value into your business? So please try to keep them separate, and using this toggle is super easy to control what channel the user is running it. When building Instant App, I always try to tell people, please don't try to convert your regular installable application into an Instant App. So your instant application does not have to be a full version of your installable application. So if currently, for example, your installable application has 15 features, your instant app can have 3 to 5 features. And so it can be just an engagement tool that eventually will bring you users into your installable application. So there is a very useful method, show install prompt, which basically help you to bring a dialog to your users when they're browsing within your installable within your instant app. So if your instant app is not a fully fledged application, you can take it as an engagement platform for your users. And once your users start to interact with instant app and they truly love the experience, what they can do is they can click on the button install, and the installable application can be installed right from within instant app. So the users do not have to go to Google Play Store. It's so seamless and basically so frictionless to do that right within instant applications. So this is probably will be the best part of my presentation, or at least my favorite part of the presentation. Jet.com was an early access partner with Google when we were building Instant Apps. So we've seen the iterations of Instant Apps since the very beginning. And we've seen all the changes that have been done. And working with early APIs and early tooling, you can imagine that there were a lot of, or some inconsistencies, some crashes, some things that not working, some things that took us a lot of time to fix. So in the next few slides, I will provide some basically concrete examples of what crashes and what things don't work and the workarounds. Okay, so let's start with an error that we ran into when we were building Instant App. And from the error, you can see that there is an inconsistency of version code being specified 0 in comparison with the version code 494. So, and why do we have version code 0? So my first intuitive thought was, okay, maybe I missed version code, maybe I didn't set version code. I went to the base module, to the build-a-gradle file of the base module in order to verify that the version code is actually 0 and not 494. And as you can probably guess, nothing is that easy. I was able to verify that the version code is actually 494 in my build-a-gradle file of the base module. Okay, so then where does the 0 coming from? If we look closer at the error, it tells us that PDP module of Instant App mentioned, right? Okay, but why is that? PDP module is our feature module. It depends on the base module. If it depends on the base module, it should be able to pull the version code and version name from the base module, right? Makes sense. This is what we've seen from the diagram before. It does make sense. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like this at this moment. This is a bug on Google's side, and they're aware of this. Hopefully, they will fix it. At least they promised to fix it. But currently, in order not to run into this issue, you have to set a version code and version name manually, not only in the base module, but in the feature modules as well. So once you set it manually, you will be good to go. ProGuard. ProGuard usually gives a lot of headache. We had ProGuard enabled in our regular installable application. It was working fine. But when we enabled ProGuard in Instant Apps, we started to run into a lot of no such method error, no such field name error. And so it was pretty surprising for us. And as it turns out, ProGuard unfortunately is not smart enough to configure the connections between different modules. So ProGuard strips out a lot of code that is actually being used between different modules. So in order to prevent this errors and basically fix all of them, you just have to provide certain ProGuard rules, extra ProGuard rules to the ProGuard file. And again, it's super easy. You're running your application. You see, once you run into a no such method error, field name error, or class, you know that ProGuard stripped it out. Go to your ProGuard file and just add an extra rule in order to keep that class, method, or file within your application, and that should fix the issue. This is my least favorite error. So we're building Instant App and we're running into a lot of resource errors. And as we can see in this example, we have a toolbar, and the idea of the toolbar r.id.toolbar, but it's not being found. Again, my first intuitive thought, I have to go to the XML file and actually see, is there a toolbar, and is the ID of a toolbar actually r.id toolbar? And again, nothing is so simple in the development world. I was able to verify there is my toolbar, the ID is r.id.toolbar. So when we started to look deeper into the issue, The problem was that the resource is being defined in the XML file, which is located in the base module. But this resource is being referenced in the feature modules. So we're defining it in one module, base module, we're using it in the feature modules. And what happens is in instant apps, each and every module would have different package names within the manifest file. Just because they have different package names, they will have different resource packages generated, right, per module. So in order to solve this issue, we do need just to reference the resource ID that is specified in the manifest. We have to specify the full resource. And the full resource is usually prefixed by the package name which is specified in the manifest file of the module. Again, this is not a universal error. This is just an issue when you're using when you're defining your resource in a base module and using it into a feature module. Just remember to specify the full resource ID, not just the ID that you set in the XML file. Currently, reusable layouts are not being supported in feature modules, so merge and include tags will throw you a bunch of resource errors. And unfortunately, I don't have a quick workaround. So the thing that we ended up doing is just remove all the merge and include text in feature modules and just use started to nest the layouts. Again, Google is aware of the issue. Hopefully, they will fix it if they have not done it yet. But yeah, it was just like a quick workaround for us just to remove all the merge and include text and start nesting layouts to unblock us and launch instant apps to prod. And the last area that I would love to show you is we're building instant app, we are running it, everything is fine, nothing is crashing, but nothing is there. So please make sure to use HTTPS and secure networking through TLS protocols. No HTTP is allowed in instant apps. So I would love to sum up my talk today with the benefits that we've gained when we built instant apps, because it's not really a one-way gain that we got when we started to work on instant apps. And the first huge thing that we were able to do is to reduce the size of our application. And I'm not talking about just instant apps. So the size of our current installable application got slimmed down to a little bit less than 7 megabytes. And instant app is a little bit less than 4 megabyte size limit. So we actually were able to go from multi-DAX into a single DAX, which we're super happy about as well. Another huge win for us was a modularization. When I joined Jet.com, our application was a mess. So there was one monolithic app module. It was really hard to track what's going on there. And each and every new team member that started to join the team was in such a pain to figure out, okay, what's actually going on in this application? So after building instant apps and after remodularizing our application, it's such a delightful experience to open the project structure and see that everything is so properly structured and organized. It's such a delightful experience, and yeah, new developers just love that onboarding process is so easy. We were able to code to do a lot of code cleaning up, which makes sense. So instant app requires some of the features to be supported. So if there is an account management system within your application, you have to use Google's Smart Lock API. Again, it's important just because you don't want your users waste your time and type in your username and then your credentials, right? You just want to make it as simple as possible. So Smart Lock will provide a really nice API that will do that for you. If there is some checkout process that you want to do and run through your application, you have to rely on Google Payments. So this number, 27%, our conversion rate increased by 27%. And honestly, when I looked at that number, when our analytics team shared this number, I'm like, no. This is impossible. 27%, how? And so we decided to verify the number. We enabled extra analytics in order to see, is it the true number or did we mess up somewhere? And we actually were able to verify that it's in reality 27%. And on top of that, our cart size increased by 7% because instant app experience is so fast, so performant, and so frictionless that our users spend more money and more time within our application. So I cannot stress it enough that instant app up wasn't just one-way gain for us. It wasn't only about building this one new type of the application. It brought up a lot of benefits to our regular installable application, and it brought up a lot of benefits and money to our business. So this is the end of the presentation.